Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Historical Humans Reacts. And on today's episode, a hidden royal trove of rulers of Poland and Lithuania discovered in the underground vaults of Vilnius Cathedral in Lithuania. And like any good Eastern European story, it really gains its footing in the 1930s, where in 1939, authorities of Poland and Lithuania decided to bury the goods because of certain group of very angry people had decided that they like to collect very shiny and valuable things. And those things tend to go missing.
Yep.
And
Yep.
what a find. This was found in the dungeons of Vilnius Castle, where the royal funerals of Polish and Lithuanian monarchs were discovered in the underground vaults. Although that's a little kind of circular. Effectively, we did a podcast on the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, as they tend to have been one unified polity, so it's not unusual to see the two represented here.
The artifacts from this time would have been the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. The two nations had a pretty strong shared history, despite being very different, two very different groups of people.
And what happened was all of these Polish and Lithuanian royal treasures were intentionally buried at the start of the Second World War, where a scepter, crowns, medallions, rings, and plaques were collected and placed in the crypt, where they were concealed for almost 9 decades, 90 years.
Yep.
And what was kind of fun and interesting is last December, researchers were putzing around in the dungeons, inspecting the cracks and cavities in the walls, when they ended up accidentally uncovering the treasure trove, which showed all of these artifacts and goods that have managed to survive. And this is honestly one of the most incredible stories in the world, because what a dream to find a priceless treasure trove. Even notwithstanding like the fact you don't get to keep any of it and you don't get the wealth of just finding all of these priceless artifacts tucked away, hidden, and just uncovered for future generations to understand, learn about, and see. And it's insignias of the monarchs that were made out of gold works and jewelry. There's a lot of... It's fascinating. I don't know. I'm like fumbling over that.
In addition to royal artifacts, there are also a number of artifacts from that bore the insignia of the bishops that would have been in Vilnius Cathedral at the time. So there's a lot of religious stuff as well as a lot of monarchical things. And what's really interesting is the reason why this stuff had to be hidden in the first place at the start of World War II was because in 1931, a flood washed out the tomb of the Grand Duke of Lithuania and King of Poland. So a flood in the basement opened his tomb. And so in order to preserve the artifacts from the imminent threat of an invading army, they needed somewhere to relocate them because, the wall that hid it no longer existed.
And it's just very interesting because what they discovered and the treasure that they had bear the insignia of rulers Alexander Jagiellon, King of Poland from 1501 to 06, Elizabeth of Habsburg, and Barbara Radziwill, the first and second wives of Sigismund Augustus, who reigned from 1548 to 72. And both kings were a part of the Jagiellon dynasty, which ushered in Poland's golden age in the 16th century. And the crowns of the king, Elizabeth, and Barbara were among the hoard, as were a host of coffin plates and votive offerings, which include rings, crosses, and insignias. Just the fact that they found royal crowns, and what, as Colin mentioned, they were uncovered after a flood, But when the war broke out, the Second World War, and the angry German people were marching, they decided to stash it away to prevent it from being looted, stolen, and potentially even melted down. And they basically wrapped it in newspaper and placed it in a niche in the staircase when the war threatened the structure. Um, and just what happens over time is people forgot about it. People don't remember exactly where it was stored. The person who had originally stashed it may have not survived the war. They may have relocated, but they
They may have
knew it
simply chosen
existed.
not to pass the information down, and it just, everyone in the convent knows that somewhere in the wall we put this. But
And
yeah, sorry to interrupt.
no, it's fine, but it's interesting because while the regalia required more effort, the treasury was rediscovered in 1985, which they used non invasive techniques like radar, thermal imaging, metal detectors, and even a witness who was there when everything was hidden. And they basically hired the Vilnius Archdiocese, hired professionals to search for it, and they couldn't find it. However, to their detriment, they weren't able to find funding in 2023, but they ended up going back at it in 2024, where an endoscopic camera was inserted in the wall's holes and cracks when they ended up finding it. And it was just incredible. They had basically taken a tiny little camera and put it in every little crack and crevice they could find in this building.
Just kept feeding it until it stopped. Until it stopped moving. These are little cameras you see on TV when people slide them under the door and they get that little snake thing that comes in, looks around, and gives them the view. These are fun little devices.
A lot of times used in like car automotive work to look inside the cylinder walls of a motor. So it's just cool that they used a bunch of different techniques and that these items were uncovered. And it's a long shot, but there's a lot of other looted goods that has the potential of eventually being rediscovered one of these days. One of the most prominent and probably heartbreaking ones that has been lost so far is the Amber Room. And that the story of the Amber Room is incredible. The Germans basically ripped down the walls of a Russian palace that had walls made out of amber, and they trucked them away, and they have disappeared to the annals of history. So to know that items are out there, they're stashed, they're hidden, and they might be uncovered. If that doesn't spark the adventurer in you, I don't know what does. Hidden treasure buried in dungeons of lost kings and queens.
Yeah, yeah. No, you found the crown. You found a crown on the wall. Yeah. This is not stuff that happens every day.
Does that mean by the transitive property you then become king?
No, I don't think so. Just because that's not how the line of succession works.
Just imagine though, you pop it on your head and you become the next king of the Polish Lithuanian Commonwealth. It resurrects along with the rest of the dead royal lineage.
Listen, there's no way. There's no way that's gonna work. There's no way the what archdiocese in Vilnius will anoint you, because the reason why all this stuff was here was because Vilnius was where you went to get crowned and buried and all these major ceremonial functions.
Yeah, it was a big point of political power at that era. But I think that's probably a great point for us to wrap up today's episode. If you guys enjoyed watching, let us know, and we will see you all in the next video.